397. That's the number of confirmed kills. Rachel Carter, a Green Beret sniper, had racked up that count before she left the battlefield behind, trading her rifle for a tractor. After her husband's passing, she returned to her family's farm in Pine Valley, Wyoming, determined to raise her 2 children alone. At 50, she was battle-hardened by years of service, yet softened by her deep love for the land. She truly believed those days of war were behind her. The peaceful life didn't last. Her summers were filled with long days and early mornings, but Rachel found comfort in the steady rhythm of farm work. Until one bright morning, as she repaired a section of fencing along the western boundary of her land, she sensed something off. Focused on her work, her movements were precise, a habit ingrained from her years as a sniper. She didn't notice the distant hum of a motorcycle at first. But as it grew louder, then suddenly cut off at the edge of her field, her instinct sharpened. Rachel squinted into the sun, spotting a man, scruffy beard, sharp eyes, watching her. His leather vest bore a patch, Iron Wolves. He didn't speak, just stared, his gaze heavy, assessing. Then, without a word, he revved the engine and tore off, kicking up a cloud of dust. Rachel lingered, gripping the fence post tighter than necessary. Something about that moment sat wrong. A silent alarm echoed in her gut, one she'd learned long ago never to ignore. She took a slow breath, glanced toward the distant hills, scanning the horizon, before forcing herself back to work. But her mind was already running through possibilities. Later that day, her 16-year-old daughter, Emma, came rushing into the barn, urgency in her voice.
"Mom."
"Mrs. Bradley just called. She said some bikers were at the gas station. Asking about us." Rachel's stomach nodded. "Did they say why?" Emma shook her head. "She said they looked serious, organized." Rachel's gaze sharpened. "Where's Ethan?" "Out back with Max." Rachel stepped outside, her eyes sweeping the horizon. Her Australian shepherd, Max, barked sharply from near the chicken coop. Rachel's hand instinctively dropped to her hip, where a sidearm once rested, long gone now. She spotted Ethan, crouched by the coop, face pale. "Mom," he said, pointing toward the road. "I saw 3 bikes earlier." They stopped, just staring at the house. "Max has been acting weird all morning, like when that mountain lion came down last year." Rachel nodded, her mind shifting into high alert. "You and Emma stick close to the house. I'm going into town." At the Pine Valley feed store, the usual bustle had an undercurrent of unease. When Rachel stepped inside, conversations hushed. Eyes followed her. Sam, the store owner, leaned over the counter with a grim nod. "Rachel." "Sam," she greeted, matching his serious tone. His voice dropped lower. "Word is, the Iron Wolves have been sniffing around your place. They've been moving through the valley, farms, businesses. Anyone who can't pay their fee winds up with a burned barn or worse." Rachel's jaw tightened. "How many of them?" Sam exhaled. "A dozen. Maybe more. And they're not just some backroad gang. These guys? Some of them are ex-military." The bell above the door jingled. Martha, Rachel's elderly neighbor, hurried inside, a newspaper clutched in her hands. "Rachel, you need to see this." She unfolded the paper, revealing a grainy photo of a man. Viper, the leader of the Iron Wolves. A face etched with scars, eyes void of warmth. "They've already taken over 3 towns north of here," Martha said. "Thompsons refused to pay last week. Their farm?
Gone.
Burned to the ground." Rachel's mind clicked into motion, strategizing, calculating, planning. "Thanks for the heads up," she said. "Let me know if you hear anything else." When Rachel returned home, Emma and Ethan were finishing their chores. Emma's sharp eyes met hers. "Mom," she said, voice tight. A black motorcycle passed by.
"Twice."
"They're watching us, aren't they?" Rachel nodded. "We're not panicking, but we're not ignoring it either. Stick to the routines we discussed. Stay close to the house. Keep Max nearby." That night, Rachel sat on the porch, an old shotgun resting across her lap. She'd bought it for coyotes. Tonight, It was a reminder, a warning. Her hands moved with practiced ease as she cleaned the weapon. The rhythmic motions were second nature, ingrained from years in the field. The crickets chirped. Leaves rustled in the wind. But Rachel's mind was elsewhere. Her gaze drifted toward the barn, toward a false wall, concealed behind stacks of hay bales. Behind that wall lay a sniper rifle and tactical gear she had sworn she'd never touch again.
But now?
Now the time was drawing near. She'd prepared for this, back when she first bought the farm. Because Rachel Carter knew, some threats don't stay buried. And some wars follow you home. The first confrontation came 2 days later. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the fields, when 4 bikers pulled up at the farm's gate. Their machines rumbled, a distant storm rolling in. The man in front,
Tall.
a deep scar ran down his cheek. His vest bore the name Viper. His insignias? They weren't for decoration. They meant rank and violence. Rachel stepped out of the house, posture steady,
Calm.
deliberate. Viper's lips curled into a smirk. Nice place, he drawled. Be a shame if something happened to it. Rachel's expression didn't change. Private property. Keep moving. Viper chuckled, the sound laced with menace. Oh, I think you misunderstand. We're offering protection. Reasonable fee. $5,000 a month. Rachel's stare was unwavering. Not interested. The smirk faded. Everyone's interested. Eventually. Just ask the Thompsons. Rachel didn't flinch. You've said your piece. Now, get off my land. Viper's gaze darkened. You've got till the end of the week. After that, things might get unpredictable. Then, with the roar of engines, they were gone. Rachel exhaled slowly. But her mind was already working, tracking their movements, assessing threats. She circled the property, noting fresh boot prints, tire tracks. These men weren't just thugs. They were trained. That night, Rachel called a meeting. Trusted locals gathered in her barn. Martha, Sam, and others. The sheriff, someone asked. Tom shook his head. He's in their pocket. Martha's voice was firm. Then it's up to us. Rachel moved to the back of the barn. And with a quiet, deliberate motion, she pulled the tarp off an old case. Her sniper rifle gleamed in the dim light. If they're coming, she said, voice steady, they'd better be ready for a fight. And when the Iron Wolves returned, this time with 20 riders, they found Pine Valley waiting.